J-17 Thunder multi-role fighter, have succeeded it in the export market. To date, large numbers of J-7s remain in service with multiple export customers. 3. 4. With play set to retire the fleet in 2023. 5. Design and development. Background. In the 1950s and early 1960s, the Soviet Union shared a large proportion of its conventional weapons technology with its neighbor, the People's Republic of China. One such example is the MiG-19, which was locally produced by China as the Shenyang J-6 from as early as 1958. 6. During the same decade, the even more capable MiG-21 had been developed by the Soviets. This fighter, being inexpensive but fast, suited their strategy of forming large groups of people's fighters to overcome the technological advantages of Western aircraft. However, the Sino-Soviet split abruptly ended initial cooperation efforts. Between the 28th of July 1928 and 1 September 1960, the Soviet Union withdrew its advisors from China, resulting in the J-7 project coming to a halt in China. During February 1962, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev unexpectedly wrote to Mao Zedong to inform him that the Soviet Union was willing to transfer MiG-21 technology to China, and he asked the Chinese to promptly send their representatives to the Soviet Union to discuss arrangements. The Chinese viewed this offer as a Soviet gesture to make peace. While suspicious, they were nonetheless eager to take up the Soviet offer of an aircraft deal. A delegation headed by General Liu Yala, the commander-in-chief of the People's Liberation Army Air Force, PLAF, and himself a Soviet military academy graduate, was dispatched to Moscow immediately. The Chinese delegation was given 3 days to visit the MiG-21's production facility, which was previously off-limits to foreigners. 7. The visit's authorization was personally given by Nikita Khrushchev, and on the 30th of March 1962, the technology transfer deal was signed. 8. Establishing production. However, given the state of political relations between the two countries, the Chinese were not optimistic about gaining the technology, and allegedly made preparations to reverse engineer the aircraft. 6. Russian sources state that several complete MiG-21s were sent to China, flown by Soviet pilots, while MiG-21's in-kit form was also sent along with parts and technical documents. As the Chinese had expected, following delivery of kits, parts and documents to Shenyang Aircraft Factory 5 months after the deal was signed, it was discovered that some technical documents provided by the Soviets were incomplete and that several parts could not be used. China set about to engineer the aircraft for local production. In doing so, they successfully solved 249 major issues and reproduced 8 major technical documents that were not provided by the Soviet Union. One of major flaws was with the hydraulic systems, which grounded up to 70% of some squadrons' aircraft until upgrades were made. Another major modification was to the fuel storage, increasing the aircraft stability. The MiG-21 carries most of its fuel in the forward fuselage, causing the center of gravity to shift and become unstable after about 45 minutes of operation. The J-7 has redesigned fuel tanks and significantly larger drop tanks in order to maintain a more stable center of gravity, and therefore better longitudinal static stability. The cockpit was also revised to replace the Soviet ejection seat, which was deemed to be unacceptable. The forward opening canopy was replaced by a standard rear-hinged canopy which was jettisoned prior to ejection. The re-engineering effort was largely successful, as the Chinese-built J-7 showed only minor differences in design and performance from the original MiG-21. 9. During March 1964, domestic production of the J-7 reportedly commenced at the Shenyang Aircraft Factory. However, mass production efforts were severely hindered by an unexpected social and economic problem: the Cultural Revolution that resulted in poor initial quality and slow progress. Achieving full domestic production had involved not only the local assembly of the aircraft itself, but the production of its various components and systems, including its turbojet power plant. 10. As a consequence, full-scale production of the J-7 was only truly achieved during the 1980s, by which time the original aircraft design was showing its age. By the 1980s, quantity production of the General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon fighter was well underway in the United States. This relatively affordable single-engined Western fighter was considerably more agile than the J-7, even with the former carrying a greater payload. 11. Further development. In 1987, the J-7E was released, having a greatly improved wing, among other improvements. It was roughly 45% more maneuverable, and its takeoff and landing performance was greatly increased. It was also equipped with a helmet-mounted sight, as well as being the first MiG-21 variant to be equipped with HOTAS and a multi-purpose display. Many of the electronic components were British in origin, such as the gun sight and the multi-purpose display. The aircraft is capable of using PL-8/Python 3 missiles with both helmet-mounted sight or the radar fire control, but the two are not connected. The pilot may use only one system at a time. 9. In the mid-1980s, Pakistan requested an aircraft with greater radar capabilities. Both the standard radar and the British Marconi radar were plagued by ground clutter, but China did not have any experience with air-to-ground radar at the time. In 1984, Pakistan provided assistance by having their American-trained F-16 pilots provide training on proper ground attack radar operation, which enabled the Chinese to develop the J-7M. In the late 1980s, the J-7MP and J-7PG introduced significant upgrades to the radar system by converting to an Italian Fiagrifo 7 radar, more than tripled the effective range of the radar, as well as greatly increased the maximum angle for target detection. 12. The J-7 only reached its Soviet-designed capabilities in the mid-1980s. Being relatively affordable, it was widely exported as the F-7, often with Western systems incorporated, such as to Pakistan. There are over 20 different export variants of the J-7, some of which are equipped to use European weaponry, such as French R.550 Magic missiles. The Discovery Channel's Wings Over the Red Star series claims that the Chinese intercepted several Soviet MiG-21s en route to North Vietnam during the Vietnam War, but these aircraft did not perform in a manner consistent with their original specifications, suggesting that the Chinese actually intercepted down-rated aircraft that were intended for export, rather than fully capable production aircraft. For this reason, the Chinese had to re-engineer the intercepted MiG-21 airframes in order to achieve their original capabilities. China later developed the Shenyang J-8 based both on the expertise gained by the program, and by utilizing the incomplete technical information acquired from the Soviet U-152 developmental jet. 13. 14. During May 2013, production of the J-7 was permanently terminated, bringing to a close a period of manufacturing stretching almost 50 years. 15. At the China International Aviation and Aerospace Exhibition in 2018, a display showing the J-7 as an unmanned platform was shown. 16. Operational history. A Nigerian Foot-7Ni Albanian Air Force Chengdu F-7A Myanmar Air Force Chengdu F-7M Islamic Republic of Iran Air Force Chengdu Foot-7 landing at Mirabade International Airport Africa, Namibia during August 2005, Namibia ordered 12 F-7NMs for its Air Force. Chinese sources reported the delivery in November 2006. The model procured is believed to be a variation of the F-7PG acquired by Pakistan with Griffo MG radar. 17. Nigeria in early 2008, Nigeria procured 12 F-7NI fighters and 3 Foot-7NI trainers to replace its existing inventory of MiG-21 fighters. 18. On September 20, 2018, 2 Nigerian F-7I aircraft crashed into Katampa, Abuja, killing 1 pilot after a mid-air collision during a rehearsal of an aerial display for the 58th anniversary of Nigeria's independence. 19. Sudan during the lengthy Second Sudanese Civil War, Sudan procured a number of F-7s. In November 1993, it was reported that Iran had allegedly financed Sudan's purchase of around 20 Chinese ground attack aircraft, having pledged $17 million in financial aid to the Sudanese government and arranged for $300 million in Chinese arms to be delivered to the Sudanese army. 20. Tanzania. The Tanzanian Air Force deployed its F-7s during the Uganda-Tanzania War against Uganda and Libya, fought between 1978 and 1979. Forming a major component of Tanzania's combat aircraft, the type facilitated the defeat of the nominally stronger Uganda Army Air Force during the air campaign. 21. 22. Zimbabwe. Due to their very limited operational capabilities in the absence of ground support from radars, Zimbabwean F-7s were never used in combat operations during the Second Congo War. 23. Their only deployment in the DR Congo took place in January 2001, when 4 aircraft were to participate in the burial ceremony for the abandoned Iraqi Foot-7 in front of the Al-Assad ATC Tower. A J-7I on display at the Chinese Aviation Museum. Note: Thunder Wing PL-2 missiles assassinated President Laurent Desire Kabila. During the journey from Zimbabwe to Kinshasa, one of them crashed, with its pilot ejecting safely. Moreover, on the return trip, 2 aircraft were damaged on landing, although both were repaired and returned to service. 24. Europe. Albania. The deployment of F-7s near the country's northern border successfully checked Yugoslav incursions into Albanian airspace. 25. East and Southeast Asia. China. Throughout the mid-1990s, the PLAF began to replace its J-7 inventory with the substantially redesigned and improved J-7I variant. The wings of the J-7E have a new double delta design offering improved aerodynamics and increased fuel capacity, and the J-7E also features a more powerful engine and improved avionics. The newest version of the J-7, the J-7G, entered service with the PLAF in 2003. The principal role of the J-7 in Chinese service is to provide local air defense and tactical air superiority. Large numbers are to be employed to deter enemy air operations. In June 2021, 4 J-7s participated in a combat drill conducted near Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone. 26. The decommissioning of the J-7 began in 2018, with the whole fleet set to retire in 2023. According to the U.S. Air Force China Aerospace Studies Institute, the retirement of J-7 marked the PLAF's transition to a fleet composed of only 4th generation and 5th generation aircraft. According to the Chinese media, PLAF also considered turning J-7 into drones for training tools and aerial decoys. 27. 28. Myanmar. During the 1990s, Myanmar reportedly established 4 squadrons of F-7s, which have been primarily used for air defense duties. Technical difficulties have reportedly plagued the fleet early on, and their ground attack performance was not deemed sufficient. 29. Since then, Myanmar has improved the F-7 fleet's capabilities via a modernization program. A series of upgrades were allegedly performed by a combination of Chinese and Israeli enterprises. Although confirmed details on the arrangements have remain sparse, changes reportedly include the adoption of various Israeli-built missiles. 30. 29. Middle East. Iran. During the 1980s, Iran procured a number of F-7s. Despite China.
Yes, I need a small break. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll stop the video.